I'm Adam Walker, a biometrics consultant, and this is the Pharma Prescribed Podcast, where leaders, innovators, and hidden voices in healthcare open up. No sound bites, no spin, just raw insight, one prescription at a time. In an industry driven by data, protocols, and pressure, we rarely pause to ask the human questions. What drives us? What breaks us? And what truths live behind the titles we wear? Anna Titkova is the International Operations Director and Country Head of Pratia Ukraine, one of Europe's largest site networks, where she oversees operations across multiple countries with a focus on accessibility, innovation, and quality. Anna's journey is marked not only by professional excellence, but by personal courage. Leading a pan-European organization while her homeland faces the ongoing realities of war, she brings a unique perspective on what it means to build systems that endure and to center compassion in every decision. Under Dr. Anna's leadership, Pratia continues to expand its reach, integrating digital tools and local expertise to make clinical trials more inclusive and responsive to real-world needs. Anna, welcome to Pharma Prescribed.
Good afternoon, Adam. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very glad to be here. Honestly saying, you were the first person in 2023 with whom I had my first interview regarding our operations, about our company, our life, starting from 2022. And I'm very happy to come back to you and to continue our communication. Thank you very much.
It's a delight to have you here today, Anna. And I think just to remind our audience of the time that you've been through. The invasion of Ukraine was on February 24th, 2022. And by my reckoning, that's nearly 1,500 days since has passed. Presumably life is very different for you now.
Yeah, but we're used to it. Now we adapt ourselves. We understand how we can live, how we can continue our work, how we can continue our businesses. And actually, I believe that great example for someone else to maybe reconsider their businesses, to look from another angle on their lives, and to prevent such and horror things in the future.
Yeah. For our audience's purposes and understanding, I think historically you were living in Ukraine. Am I correct in thinking that you're now located in Poland?
Yeah. So I was born in Ukraine, in Kharkiv. This is the city, a millionaire city, the second largest city in Ukraine, but on the eastern part of Ukraine. Now it's important to know from where you are. And unfortunately, from February 22, we were forced to flee the country and to move to Poland.
So how is life for you in Poland these days? I've been to Poland several times myself, and I've always found it to be incredibly welcoming, and the people are absolutely wonderful. What's your experience been, and how do you find living there?
Yeah, we're very familiar with Polish people here, so it's our now second home. We couldn't imagine that it might have happened even in February and or in March, for example, in 2022. We thought that probably it will be for a few days, for a few weeks, but not for 3 years and a half till today. But here we're good. We have a good environment. We are welcomed nicely by people here, and our company Pratia has a headquarters in Poland. That's why it was the decision and the help from my top management of the company to be relocated to Poland with their support. And at the beginning, we established this life now.
That's great to hear. So Tell me more about Pratia. Tell me more about the company and what it does and your role within the organization.
Yeah, Pratia is an international site management organization. So that means that we have a network of clinical research sites in different countries, in different cities, and we're managing them under several models of cooperation with the sites. It might be our own clinical research site where we have fully owned place, people, staff, facilities, or it might be a dedicated clinical research site. So based on some medical institution, we are arranging a clinical research units. where we support the sites exactly with clinical trial activities. The name of Pratia, as everyone is asking about it usually, is actually a small genus of flowering plants in the bellflower family, known for its modest and delicate beauty, and it's symbolizing such a growth, connection, and organic development of our company. My role in Pratia started in 2019 when Pratia decided to make this expansion globally, because previously it was only the Polish company with clinical research sites in Poland, and they came to me with this idea and proposal to arrange the Pratia entity on the territory of Ukraine. So from 2019, from the end of 2019, I started this investigation and work with Pratia together. And when COVID pandemic started, exactly at the end of March, I registered 2 companies on the territory of Ukraine. That is Pratia Clinic Ukraine. So this was the first dedicated to clinical research medical institution, private medical institution on the territory of Ukraine. And the second company is called Pratia Ukraine, that was responsible just for making these connections and collaboration with embedded hospitals, with sites performing clinical trials in different regions, in different countries. And during this period of time till 2022, I managed to establish the network of 8 embedded clinical research units in 4 Ukrainian cities in 3 Ukrainian regions, and our own clinical research site that received all the necessary documentation, accreditation, license. It's very difficult stuff in Ukraine after this post-Soviet heritage that we have. You need to follow many procedures and inspections and papers gathered together to receive this possibility to perform clinical researches, but we managed to do this. We started first clinical trials. They were in COVID, of course, during this COVID pandemic. We were the world's best recruiter in COVID treatment study. We randomized almost 500 patients in COVID vaccination trial. We started clinical studies in our own clinical research site. So the life was beautiful. We had a lot of ideas, crazy vision of the expansion, what we can do, because we saw that it really works in a short period of time. This was my life put on the development, on the creation of this business. And everything was so nicely that unfortunately it was interrupted early morning at 4:45 a.m. of 24th of February 2022, as you mentioned before.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned and bring up the topic of the pandemic. To most people, that would seem to be a fairly impactful experience on any organization, and not least a clinical site organization as well, like Pratia. But what did you learn from that experience before you then found yourself in the eye of the storm with the Russian invasion?
You know, it was a very good test probably for me. And as I started the business in such conditions, for me, the next step from February 22, it was like the continuation of the situation in which I used to work and in which I used to create the business and to maintain it. It was really difficult, even the simple example of registration of the company when you are not able to go to the notary because you need to have only several people on the exact distance between each other to arrange proper people to make it legally possible. So such a funny things, but they were from the beginning, from the first step of the creation of the company. And actually, I don't know how it was. Perhaps it was the conditions in which I started the development of this business. And for me, this was my normality for that period of time. So I was focused how I can manage, so how I will arrange my schedule, how I will find these people so to make this possibility even to travel. Because you remember at the beginning of this COVID pandemic, you were not capable to travel by your own car in the city, not even to use the public transport that was not operational at that period of time. But yeah, it was the task. Okay, so this is your situation, this is your atmosphere. Okay, let's adopt it according to what you can do. And it was very good because we were ready to start these first clinical trials in COVID treatment and vaccination. We were ready because I was speaking exactly with hospitals specialized in infectious diseases, having these patients in intensive care units for that period of time.
It sounds very much like it was a learning curve with regards to effectively having a disaster recovery plan already in place that you were working and was already implemented.
Yeah, unconsciously created according to the business that we started.
It's absolutely amazing. I often reflect back on that time of the pandemic and the unknowns that we had then, and the world feels very different today in many aspects, from a clinical perspective as much as from a political and economic perspective. Those last 5 or 6 years have been transformative for many nations and many countries. And I wonder what the personal impact has been to yourself and to your family. I believe you're a parent as well. Is that right?
Yeah.
So how has that been as a parent as well? Because of course you've got children to look after and concern yourself with, as well as doing a very high-powered job that involves an awful lot of travel and engagement with all aspects of your work.
Yeah, it's difficult. For women, probably it's the most difficult task to combine work, high level work, with your family life. But I had such a passion to do this work. For me, it was my calling. I don't know. I never thought that I will be a person in the business. I will be a person in the management of some operations, of the business operations. I had a dream, childhood dream, to become a doctor. So I passed a lot of steps, levels to achieve my scientific degrees, medical certifications. And for me, that was something that I should achieve at the end. But business, I haven't got any businessman in my family. So my family is quite simple people. We haven't got anyone who can advise me something or can give me any support during this. And for my family, actually, this was like my crazy idea. They didn't believe in it. Honestly saying, they didn't believe what I started to do. For them, it was, where are you going? So that's not the work. So you can imagine people, my parents, they're from post-Soviet, this education mindset. For them, you need to be a doctor. That's the profession. I am a professor in medical academy. That's the profession, but not the director of a medical center or some site management organization, some clinical trials. So that was not for them something valuable, something meaningful. And actually, I started to do this on such enthusiasm, probably to prove to myself that I can do something more. I can achieve something more. I can give people with whom I work like a doctor, to my colleagues, to patients whom I treated as a doctor, more options and more possibilities to become a part of something else, of international community, of new innovative treatments, of communication with colleagues of outside of Ukraine, because actually we haven't got too much connections due to being outside of European Union with some restrictions to go somewhere, for example. So that was the chance that I haven't got being a student, being a young doctor there. And I understood that that might be a chance that I can give to someone something more that they can imagine to have. And this was in such a way, a way of logical, probably for me, continuation of the efforts that I did before in my life. And your purpose in life is not something you find by the accident. It's the work you cannot imagine not doing. And honestly saying, I cannot imagine not doing what I'm doing now. For me, that's the essence of my life, and my family accepts this.
Yeah, that's extraordinary, the way you describe that. I'm sure your family are extremely proud of what you've achieved, but perhaps they couldn't see what you were on the path to achieve. Maybe that's what it was, because by the sounds of it, they didn't have the same perspective nor the same education that you've clearly had and acquired throughout your educational journey, never mind your working life. The juxtaposition between business and medicine, I mean, do you think the two go hand in hand? Has that been an easy transition, or has it been something that you've acquired along the way? How's that been for you?
Honestly saying, I combine, and still till today, I combine my scientific work, being a professor associate in medical academy and medical universities in Ukraine. So yeah, I stopped my clinical work as a doctor from 2021 when I had this big workload of activities to arrange the business. But I always was a part-time employee, and still I am a part-time employee for now for my university in Ukraine, where I combine and I can share my experience, expertise with young doctors, with young students in medicine and clinical research. So it was not it was difficult at the beginning, these cultural differences, the understanding of the big corporation in which you need to adapt the business with the reality on the territory of Ukraine. In Ukraine, we had sometimes very different legislation with the European Union, and it was not understandable for people from Pratia, for example, finance, legal departments, how it can be combined all together, because we are too different according to many aspects. And that was the most difficult part for me, to adopt the requirements of the big corporation into the reality of a small country.
Yeah, I get that. I understand that. There sounds like there were many different conflicting priorities for your time. On a general day-to-day, how on earth do you prioritize what's the most important? Are you a list maker? Are you very organized? You must be.
Yeah, I am. I am. So I'm still have the list where I am writing my plan for the day, for the week, because it's important for me having too many things in my head, ideas and tasks to perform, and people around me. Yeah, I still use it. So maybe I am old-fashioned in this, but I still using a simple paper, and I have the satisfaction and delight then that I can cut it and throw away after the list is done.
I'm exactly the same. I've got my list here. I've always got one by the side of me. I think it may be a generational thing, but for me, there's nothing quite as satisfying as ticking things off a list, is there? Or crossing them through. It don't get the same satisfaction when you do it on a
On
PowerPoint
the phone,
or
Yeah.
what on your phone. Exactly. It's old school. It's analog versus digital, because everything's digital these days. We've got reminders in the palm of our hand, on a phone, on a tablet. But actually, there's nothing more simple than actually having just a piece of paper, is there? It's quite straightforward.
Fully support.
That's good to know. So, however high you climb up the tree, both academically and scientifically, we always need to remember the basic things, which is to take a notebook with us, keep one by the side of the bed, perhaps, and always use a pen. I love a pen. Very simple. So, with regards to current state of affairs with Pratia, so you're located in Poland, and are you still running clinical trials in Ukraine? I know it's a conversation I've had recently with a friend and colleague of yours, Yuri Lebed, and he informed me that, yeah, business as usual in Ukraine. Is that your experience? Is that how work is for Pratia as well?
Probably not as usual with the amount of clinical trials, because let's be fair, we haven't got such a big number of clinical trials as we had before the war started. But we have some studies where more complicated, because what sponsors are searching for the rescue country for the studies that were not effective in randomization somewhere all around the world, and they are starting to remember about Ukraine and knowing the potential of our country and the possible naive population that we still have. And honestly, we have this requirement to have treatment that our patient needs to have it. If to compare 2023, 2024, in 2025, we've got much more clinical trials, new clinical trials. The last statistics that were published by the Ministry of Health of Ukraine, it's around 70 new clinical trials approved for 6 months. And the previous year, we've got 69, if I am not mistaken. So for this half a year, we've got almost the previous year whole number of clinical new trials coming to Ukraine. So if such a trend continues to be, I believe that in a year, probably till the end of 26, we may even reach the previous numbers before 2022.
It's good to know that business is continuing and definitely improving and on the up. One of the things that occurred to me, particularly, I follow you on LinkedIn, of course, and I see that you're at various different engagements. Are you now being invited as a keynote speaker to conferences? Is that something that you're doing much of? Are you getting the opportunity to speak and tell your story now?
Yeah, I'm searching for these opportunities, and I did it from 2020 and end of 2022. That was like my internal duty to speak about, to highlight the problem of Ukraine, to say that we are still alive and we need this support and we're capable to perform our responsibilities and obligations. And now I'm recognized a little bit in this our clinical research world, and sometimes asked to be somewhere. And as I'm combining now my role with international operations director role in Pratia Global, so I'm working with our countries in operations, in operational excellence, in finding the ways how we can improve our recruitment. What does it mean to be a site network overall? So I am now combining this, my speaking and sharing expertise, experience with the audience about operations as well. So not only the Ukrainian case that is still important, and some of these cases about patients, about our possibility to transfer this patient, to give them access to treatment outside of Ukraine as well, but also to speak about our operational excellence. What does it mean to be efficient? How we need to understand ourselves becoming a part of international site network. As I told you, that problems that I experienced and I had starting the business in Ukraine 5 years ago. So it's a new chapter for everyone to become a part of the site network of the big corporation, of the big international company. So I'm also trying to share my knowledge, how it can be done, what is the difference, what we can do to improve ourselves and to become better.
That's great to hear. It goes without saying, and the observation that I have, which I'm sure plenty of people have told you, is that your experiences and the resilience with which you've addressed that is in itself remarkable. But also, I think there are many bigger lessons to learn, aren't there? We all put patients at the heart of what we do, but ultimately, safety, personal safety, is something that most people take for granted. When you don't have that personal safety, or at least you're concerned for your family's welfare and extended friends network, that must put some real challenges in the way of having positive outlooks to the future, does it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And when I compare myself, when I started this business, so I believe that success was a straight path, control in my hands, certainty in every step. So I thought that if I worked harder, pushed faster, I can bend the world to my will, and everything will be achieved, and I will find this and come to my final destination. The life has its own plans on you and has the way how to humble you. And it teaches that this resilience, as you said, it's not never falling, but raising each time with greater ideas, with sharper vision, with more resilience at the end. And probably when I compare myself 5 years ago and now, I changed this perception, not to open probably each door because it's here near me. You need to build the bridges that matters. You need to understand how important to make these relations with people, how to survive and adapt yourself when the earth shifts beneath you. And because life taught that you will never come to your final destination. You're just keeping evolving, and that's the end. But I'm different. I was different. It also is like one of the cases, my personal example to someone else, to probably to overestimate their perception, how they consider themselves, how they consider themselves as a part of the business, as a part of the big process.
Yeah, I had a podcast guest on recently that was talking about one of his core values being remaining humble. It sounds like that's exactly what you're describing, to remain humble, because sometimes there are just things that are bigger than us. There are decisions that happen outside of our hands that we can't control. And as professionals, as scientists, as people, all we can do is control the things within our control. And life has a habit of just surprising you when you least expect it, doesn't it? And I think, you're describing your experiences around change, adapting to change, and adapting to what we thought was certain, and which we know, life isn't. Life can be very uncertain, can't it?
Yeah, and we need to hear such stories from people passing different conditions, different situations in their life. So we're as examples for someone else. In 2024, our Ukrainian filmmaker Mstislav Chernov receiving the Oscar for his film, documentary film 20 Days in Mariupol, staying on the stage and receiving the Oscar, started his speech with the words, "I wish I've never made this film." And I would also like, for example, to say, I wish I've never told you these stories, but as we're passing this away, as we have already understood some of the things that were far away from us, we never thought that they may come to us. So we do not know what might be somewhere else in another way, but let's show us as an example for others, not to repeat our mistakes, not to lose the hope in some situations that might be terrible and awful for the person, but at the same time, that's one more level of your personal development, of your understanding yourself, and making this adaptation according to the life that has its own plans on you.
I couldn't agree with you more. So what does that mean for the future of Pratia and your role and your future plans? How do you see that playing out, and how much of that is within your control, dare I say?
I have my personal plans, so internal ones that I put to myself that actually my internal mission, my calling is to continue my work in clinical research. So in any case, whether it will be possible in Ukraine, but I still believe that it is possible and it will be possible regardless any of the political situations and decisions that might be made during next years, months, so that we can continue our activity, that I will be able to share my knowledge and my expertise with people in international operations, in working with different groups of people and from site levels, from sponsors, from CROs, as a person passing some way, a specific way of maintaining the business and finding the way how to survive and to find the sense to continue this work. And then our and knowledge and understanding that we need to treat patients that I got from medical university, from the first courses of medical university, I still continue develop these directions. So we need to give access to our patients to innovative treatments. It doesn't matter where this patient is, in which country, on which continent, in which city. So we need to think about this integrity, equity, decentralization even. So they need to come together and showing that we really understand the patient's needs. We can really hear the patient's voice. We can really feel the patient's pain because they are alone. They are frightened everywhere, regardless of their nationality, financial status. So that's actually the work that we are doing, that we are trying to show through the example of Ukraine, through the operations inside the site network, that this is about this patient centricity, and probably this should be not a noun but a verb, patient center. So then we're working, not only talking, but doing some things to improve many aspects that we still have in clinical research industry. But the main giving access to innovative treatments to our patients who needs this most.
I love that. I think that's a fantastic segue into our quick fire round. So I love to always come to a close of these conversations around some quick fire questions, which enable me to just understand the person in front of me a little bit better. So, Anna, what is the one piece of advice you would give to your younger self, bearing in mind all the things that you've remarkably shared with us today?
Oh, well, if I could speak to my younger self, I would say probably always believe in yourself. No matter how impossible your goals may seem, follow your goals with unwavering courage. And never forget to cherish people who walk alongside with you, your family, your loved ones. Don't let doubt drown them out. Hold this your vision, even if the world is telling you that it can be done. Because every great breakthrough once sounded impossible until someone believed quite enough to make it real.
Amazing. I love that. The 3 top qualities that you value most when building a team, what would they be?
I don't think that I am a bit too original. Maybe I will repeat the famous words of Warren Buffett. He said that when you're hiring people, just look for 3 main qualities: honesty, intelligence, and energy. If the first one is not presented, the 2 last will not make any sense.
That's brilliant. Good old Warren Buffett. And what is your favorite thing outside of work? I think you may have hinted at it, but
Yeah,
perhaps you could let us know.
I enjoy traveling. I visited almost 70 countries, enormous number of cities. And for me, this is like the thing how I can understand how different our lives can be, how miserable and small my worries could be, and at the same time, how deeply similar we all are.
So I've got to ask you, what's your favorite place that you've ever visited then?
I can't tell you. I so much enjoy traveling, and for me, each country is something new. So I haven't got honestly sense. I may see maybe few of the countries that are on the top of my list, but because they are different from our European, for example, culture, like Asia or somewhere in Latin America. But I cannot tell you that I prefer one country. I will go only there, or 5 times I will go there. No, I like all of them.
Okay. And finally, what is your number one golden rule for life and for business?
Interesting question overall. I think that I changed my idea recently after this 3 years and a half, and I think that you cannot take from the world more than you give to it. That's why you need to set up such a meaningful goals that will bring some value to the world, that can make it a little bit better. It seems maybe too simplifying or abstract at the end, but I believe that that's actually, if everyone will do some things that will bring small drop of this good of light in our world, we will never face such problems, for example, and such events that now we have in Ukraine. And by the way, as a doctor, I may tell you that if when you have this right goal, it works like a dopamine-driven engine, sparkling the release of dopamine and cortisol. So these are hormones that boost our immune and well-being. So if we combine all of this, having a right goals, doing the work that you love, at the end, you can stay active and well for a long period of time with your families, with your loved ones. And isn't that what actually the real happiness is all about?
I think so. I think that's a lovely way to conclude our conversation. I really want to thank you, Anna, for taking the time today to share your story of resilience and managing your way through from a personal and professional level, some of the real challenges that you've experienced over the last 5 or 6 years. And we haven't even touched on your earlier life, but I think it's very clear to all of our audience, not just in the way that you describe your passion and your drive and your energy, which comes across very, very clearly, but really the intention behind which you do the work that you do, putting patients at the heart, and also just leaving things a little bit better, to your point. So I really want to just thank you so much for coming on Pharma Prescribed today. It's been an absolute delight to welcome you, and I hope to continue the conversation at a later point. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure. As I started my conversation with you today, I would like to finish it with the same words. You are a great person with a great energy. And for me, it's such a delight, personal delight to share with you my vision, my example, my experience. And I believe that the audience which you have, it's so as you, so bright, so light, and so kind. So thank you very much.
I can't say anything after that. You've taken my breath away. Thank you so much, Anna. It's been an absolute delight.